everyone. Happy Ganesh Chaturthi to all. We feel pleasure to invite you all to the third day of the session of this workshop on role on innovations in teaching and research. Today's the resource person is Shri Dipan Kumar Sahu sir. He is from the Innovation Cell, which is an MHRD initiative established at AICTE with the purpose to systematically foster the culture of innovations in all higher educational institutions across the country. The primary mandate of Innovation Cell is to encourage, inspire, and nurture young students by exposing them to new ideas and process, resulting in innovative activities in their formative years, fostered through network of innovations clubs in higher educational institutions. With immense pleasure, we invite today's guest from Innovation Cell, Shri Dipan Kumar Sahu. Welcome, sir. He is an assistant Innovation Director and National Coordinator of NISP, IIC, and AR, IIA, MBA, PGDM in IEV program, which is part of MHRD Innovation Cell of AICTE. And today's talk is on achieving academic entrepreneurship, role of entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial mentoring. I request Archana Madam to please introduce the guests to the delegates of the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Today we have Sri Dipan Kumar Sahu, who is a development professional with more than 10 years of experience. He has expertise in policy design and implementation in the areas of innovation and startup ecosystem development in higher education institutions in India. Sir did his graduation in fishery science from Sri Venkateswara Veterinary University, Andhra Pradesh. He attained his master's degree in rural management from Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology, University. He earned his second master's degree in development policy from Korean Development Institute, South Korea. He showed his expertise in many dynamic fields. He worked as a program executive for e-agro project piloted by Grameen Intel. He served as deputy manager in Development Alternatives, New Delhi. He worked as executive associate in Foundation for Innovation and Technology Transfer, IIG, Delhi. His experience also includes senior program coordinator in Access Development Services, where he carried out value chain analysis for farm products. He coordinated communication and stakeholder engagement. He imparted skill trainings in income generation. He assisted as research assistant in ICECD, where he carried out research consultancy assignments, provided enterprise development research services to startups. From 2017 onwards, he is serving as Assistant Innovation Director at Innovation Cell of MHRD at All India Council for Technical Education, New Delhi. He is a core member of the implementation team for National Innovation and Startup Policy for higher education institutions. He plays a lead role in designing and implementation of major national policy initiatives such as adult ranking of institutions on innovation achievement, Institutions Innovation Council and MBA in Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Venture Development, International Acceleration Program for Early Stage Startups. Dipan Kumar Sahu sir, we are delighted to have you with us on the third day of our workshop. Welcome, sir.
Now we hand over the session to Shri Dipan Kumar Sahu sir. Sir, we request you to please start your session.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata Madam ji, Dadi Institute of Engineering Technology, and in short term is called DIET. So I remember the word DIET rather than your full form because the DIET word itself is kind of a very, very important for nurturing the brains and human body, because the proper diet leads to proper health and proper health leads to proper prosperity. That's why this word diet, it just caught my attention. So let's come down to the today's topics. I think in last 2 days you must have gone through various topics related to innovation and why innovation is required and how research is going to help. And in today, in this auspicious day of Ganesh Chaturthi, I wish you all, and also I pray God Ganesha for their blessing to you all. And with this, let's start today's session. And today I'm going to focus on academic entrepreneurship. If you are from academic, then this word itself is kind of a new for many. Academic entrepreneurship means the entrepreneurship or innovation happening in academics setup is called academic entrepreneurship. And to make this academic entrepreneurship to happen, there is need various support systems, various policy and programs at academic level or focusing at academic. And one of the core for academic entrepreneurship to happen is called education in innovation and education in entrepreneurship. That means the entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurship innovation education should be happen in all academic environments or in academic institutions, and that will create a culture also that will impart certain skills related to innovation and entrepreneurship among students, also among faculties, so that they will get motivated, they will get aware about different happenings, or also they will got to know about the opportunities, also they will learn about the challenges and how to overcome the challenges. Also, if academic this entrepreneurship and innovation education will happen, then also that will help to acquire certain skill set and behavioral change towards self-employment and creating a startup or business from the innovative ideas or opportunities. Generally the students and faculties they identify and they develop, and further it will create job employment opportunities in our at regional level, at country level. So this entrepreneurship education is very good. There's a strong correlation and with the academic and creating this academic entrepreneurship. So today we will learn about this academic entrepreneurship in depth. We will also understand the Indian context. We'll discuss in detail about this academic entrepreneurship and how this entrepreneurship education actually helping other countries to prosper. And we will take a case study of Denmark. And after that, we will study how that entrepreneurship education in Denmark can help, or the learnings from these countries, European countries, will also help other countries to have this kind of policy initiatives, also entrepreneurship education focus in academic setup. So it will actually help us to achieve our country's goal, socio-economic growth. And let's start with the basic landscape, innovation entrepreneurship landscape in our country. So there are around 41,000 to 48,000 higher educational institutes in India, and where more than 2.5 crore students are studying. And though the number of student innovator and entrepreneurs from higher educational institutes are less, but still it is in the last 3 to 4 years, it is increasing at the rate of 30% over last 3 years. So approximately, if you will count the number of institutes having this incubation units, and also how many institutes having pre-incubation units, so then this number is very, very low comparison to the number of higher educational institutes we have. Hardly 1,500 to 2,000 institutes have this pre-incubation, and 250 to 300 institutes have this incubation facility. That means it is even not, it is less than 1% also, right? Less than 1%, 0.5 to 0.75% of institutes have this facility. That means actually you can just imagine that where we are now. And we need at least 5,000 to 6,000 institutes should have this kind of facilities, right? So that means this is our target, Minister of HRD Innovations target, that in how we will achieve this target in next 3 to 4 years to reach and to take this number of free incubation and incubation to 5,000 to 6,000 numbers. That is one interesting study that the startups, the student startups or any startups, those are getting incubated or those are receiving incubation support, the survivability rate or the percentage of survival has gone up to 60% compared to the startups are not receiving any incubation support, right? So that means the importance of having incubation and pre-incubation support system in academic institute generally going to boost, generally going to give a going to actually help the academic entrepreneurship to emerge and to success. So that means this sphere of pre-incubation and incubation is very, very important. So let's come to the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem among the Indians. So just to take the value, just take the numbers of founders or the co-founders of the startups currently operating or existing or functioning in Indian market system. So more than 75% of founders or the entrepreneurs, the startup founders, have the age distribution between 25 to 45 years. And if you will count or if you will take the educational qualification of these founders or the entrepreneurs, then again it is 75 to 80% of these individuals or the entrepreneurs have the education of either master or PG or engineering, like that. So that means 70 to 80% the education has actually impact on the entrepreneurship, or and education has a strong correlationship. That means now comes to the student startup. As I said, that student startup is not big proportion of the total startup landscape, but in last 3 years it is increasing at the rate of 30%. And similarly for the female entrepreneurship, in India still it is 11% to 15%, and in comparison to the global landscape, in global level also it is around 19 to 21%. That means female entrepreneurship or the female entrepreneur proportion of the female entrepreneurs are still lagging behind the male entrepreneurs, and male entrepreneurs are quite dominating over things. So I will not say it's dominating. So maybe the female candidates has to come up with have to overcome the challenges they are currently facing to become an entrepreneur. Then definitely in the next 3 to 4 years or 5 years, the proportion of the female entrepreneurs also going to increase, and it will someday it will come, both will be considered as equal, right? The more male and female entrepreneurs. Now comes to the what are the key entrepreneurship characteristics of an individual if they want to, if he or she want to become an entrepreneur or want to behave like an entrepreneur? Well, not necessarily entrepreneur, also even though in the work also they can behave or they can act like an entrepreneur, we call it entrepreneur. So these are the 4 minimum or the basic qualities or characteristics of an individual. So what are these 4 characteristics? One is called self-motivation. Self-motivation is the key, because self-motivation is a source of thinking or source of creativity or the passion, or you call it perseverance for pursuing something. So that means self-motivation actually essential is actually starting point. If an individual has this self-motivation to pursue whatever he or she decided to pursue, then I think that is the first starting point. And once a person has this self-motivation, then the next is called creative tendency. So through creative tendency, a person with self-motivated person always try to come up with ideas and solutions to the problems they encounter in the daily and both in professional and personal life. And once an individual have this self-motivation and creative tendency in their kitty, then the third one is called calculated risk taking. So calculated risk taking is also very, very important, because once you decided what to do and also you have the solution, but if you don't want to take risk to implement that solution, then there is no meaning, right? So that's why calculated risk taking is also equally important, and that helps that individual to how to plan the budget, to plan the resources, to deploy the resources, and to channelize the resources. And that helps in converting that ideas or innovations and bringing to the market. And the fourth one is also very and equally important, as I explain in the 3 characteristics, that is self-motivation, creative tendency, calculated risk taking. The fourth one is called locus of control. So the locus of control says that if somebody has decided something to do and he or she has that idea, also he has designed the action plan, but to implement, to bring that action plan into reality, there will be a mix of factors that from internal and also external factors play when they will start acting on it. So entrepreneurs should have the fully control over the internal factors, and also equal and in-depth understanding about the external factors that's going to play or giving a challenge or help during the process of implementation of the plan that he has developed, as I mentioned in during the calculator risk-taking phase. So that means these four are the key, and once a person has developed these four or have this quality, then he or she can think that he or she can pursue this entrepreneurship and innovation. So now comes to the entrepreneurship education. So this is the wheel which actually this wheel is developed by European Union in 2018 after having this more than 15 years of research, and they have developed 15 competencies that generally that can be imparted during the education or through education during academic. And these 15 qualities, these 15 competencies, we call entrepreneurship competency framework or wheel. Then these 15 competencies has been bucketed into 3 categories, and that these 3 categories are called ideas and opportunities, and the resources, and the into action. So this framework suggests and guide that how academic institutions will develop entrepreneurship education curriculum, which will focus to achieve these 15 competencies among the students or the recipients of the program. So as I mentioned, the first 5, that is spotting the opportunity, creativity, vision of that individuals or the startup, and valuing ideas, and ethical and sustainable thinking. These first 5 are bucketed under ideas and opportunities. So when an institute trying to develop any entrepreneurship education of the curriculum, they should focus on this component, and each component should have this 5 sub components to measure and to create and to provide enough opportunities, learning opportunities for the students to build these 5 competencies. Similarly, for under the resources, that students should have that self-awareness and self-efficacy, and the motivation and the perseverance, mobilizing the resources, and financial and economic literacy, and mobilizing the other to make that happen. So these are the resources also that students should have this ability and competencies. That means through education, through programs, also we have to impart this one. Similarly, the third bucket is which is very, very important, as I mentioned, and you can correlate all these things to the previous slide that I have mentioned about the 4 entrepreneurship qualities or the characteristics. So this into action, that person should have this taking the initiative and the planning and the risk, and working with others, and learning through experience. So these are the 15 competencies, and now competencies you can classify it onto the 3 buckets or the 3 components, and also you can fit these 15 competencies under the 4 characteristics that I have explained in previous slide. So all these are correlated and also can be connected, and also supporting each other through like a complementary and supplementary to each other. So now comes to the case study, that how this entrepreneurship education is actually helping. So actually I would have taken an Indian case, but actually I have not taken the Indian case, because in Indian case still it is in very, very nascent stage, and there is no such studies were organized in our country that how entrepreneurship education is actually helping the candidate to become an entrepreneur. So that's why we have to rely on the research programs or the studies and the survey or of this kind of programs are implementing in other countries. So taking the Denmark is one of the most wealthy country in European Union, and also one of the most entrepreneurial country in European Union. and that's why I have taken. And before I get into the Denmark and the entrepreneurship education and the learnings and the implications and how actually in what way they have implemented and how we can learn from this, I want to run a small video, and that video will help in to understand some. Okay, so I'm running this video. It's a 3 minutes video. After completion of this 3 minutes video, we will go through the Denmark case, and also we will see that how they have implemented at national level and how that initiative has helped to have this entrepreneurship ability, skill set, thought process, and also startups starting from LKG to PhD level. And then we will see that what the things we can learn and implement it in our country level, right? So let's start this video. I hope you all have enjoyed this video, and the last 3 line is really fascinating. When mind blows, many create shelters, few creates mind meals, right? That means it has lots of meaning, right? And I hope you all understood that what is the actual meaning. And also it says that entrepreneurship is a discipline, and this entrepreneurship has strongly correlate with the education, and that has also strongly correlate with the income and wealth of the country. So let's understand now how Denmark has implemented this entrepreneurship education and the strategies, and what are the learnings from the entrepreneurship education, a case of Denmark. Denmark is a European country, and also actually if you will classify the total, the sectors that which generate income, service sector accounts 77% of GDP and which employs 77% of the population. Whereas the manufacturing and industry sector counts 22.85, means it's 23% of the GDP and employs 20% of the population. Agriculture, which is only 1.36% of GDP and employs 2.60% of population. So if you will see the percentage of the population and the percentage of the GDP contribution by the various sector, you will find somewhat a homogeneous. No sector is neither overburdened, no sector is not deprived of the people or skill set. That means they have designed their sector in such way that matching with the skill set and the intention or the interest of the candidates with economy of the country. So this is very, very well designed and balanced economy. And also, if you will see the total revenue of the Denmark, actually they are getting 57 to 8% of the GDP. Also, government spending is 54.777% of the GDP. That means what they are getting, also they are spending somewhat equal, and always there is a surplus. That means government always running with certain surplus, right, to accommodate any kind of contingencies. And if you see the government debt, it is only 7.73%. So that means government is not in debt, and that means they have very, very well designed, balanced and wealthy economy. Now comes to the entrepreneurship education in the Denmark, and education system, and Denmark's education system, they consider entrepreneurship education as a central tool, right? And they consider education is the backbone of the economy, which make the economy stronger. And they set the target that their education system should be entrepreneurial. And that's why they said that our entrepreneurship education is to stimulate the ability of students to innovate, see opportunities, and convert ideas into the value. So this is their target, right? This is their objective or the goal of the entrepreneurship education in the Denmark. And this is set by the government, right? This is not the individual also have these things, but this is the set by the government and the academic institutes. And entrepreneurship education has been high in the policy agenda of the Denmark since last 2 decades. So they have started this strategy in 1995, and now they have reached to a very, very mature stage that to have this entrepreneurship and innovation education at all level, starting from the primary school to secondary to the high school to the university level. And they have also well established a platform supporting this introduction of entrepreneurship education. The first and foremost work they have done is that they have set the definition what Danish government want to achieve. So they said that for them, the definition of entrepreneurship is not only a financially viable, but also a non-financial institution or non-financial enterprise, which is creating social and cultural innovation and the cultural benefit. That's also called startup. So they have set certain definitions. So they have included financial benefit, also non-financial benefit. Nature of the enterprise is just comes under the startup. What the second definition they fit, that they said that okay, if somebody is producing on their own, like somebody started a new business, is also a startup. But even if in the existing enterprise or in existing organization, they come up with certain innovation in product, innovation in process, innovation in service, which leads to further business generation, that's also they call it as entrepreneurship. Because but one thing is common in all three things is called innovation. Innovation is must, but that innovation taking from the lab to market through a startup, through a existing business, or through non-financial way, or comes under this entrepreneurship of definition of Danish government. Actually, this is the way where they've started 10 years, 20 years back. And they said that the vision of the Danish government is to students should have this entrepreneurial thinking. Also, students should have the knowledge on entrepreneurship. This is the vision of Danish government they set. And for implementation of this policy, what they did, 4 ministries: Ministry of Science, Innovation and Higher Education, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Children and Education, and Ministry of Business and Growth. These 4 ministries comes together and they formulate a platform and also strategy for education and training in entrepreneurship. And they have established a separate organization, or you can, it's called a body called the Danish Foundation for Entrepreneurship. It is a national level body, like you consider any kind of, like for the example MHRD's Innovation Cell, for example Atal Innovation Mission. So similarly they have established a national level body which to implement the strategy and the performance to make the entrepreneurship education introduced at all level, including at the teachers and the society, and also providing funding support to the entrepreneurial projects, also undertake research and analysis in this field. So this is actually they have started 15 to 20 years back to implement the policy. And after that, also this Danish Foundation of Entrepreneurship, they have set up a separate wing to act as a knowledge platform or the knowledge agency to development of the materials and advice on implementation of entrepreneurship in teaching. Also, they facilitate cooperation and networking around entrepreneurship education, generating the new knowledge through research studies on the impact of entrepreneurship education. Also, they have implement the tools like funding support to the projects and entrepreneurship education, micro grant for student prototypes, market research, pilot and consultant, providing models for entrepreneurship education, providing educational tools and enabling networking for teachers and teachers training, carry out the impact measurement in every year, every 2 years, development projects and studies, and promoting various programs. So these are the kind of with certain set of programs and initiatives and the policy actions, they started implementing that strategy. Actually, the similar way what our Ministry of Education current school is more focused on entrepreneurship as an method, not as an occupation. And mostly entrepreneurship as a method involves non-cognitive oriented teachings. Okay, and that non-cognitive oriented teachings aims to develop creative and proactive pupils or the students who can manage uncertainty. But whereas there is another mode of teaching is called entrepreneurship as an occupation, which generally involves cognitive oriented, and mostly it is focused at higher level, like at university level or at the higher education level, which generally to train the students to estimate a business idea, become a self-employed and start a business. So this is the basic difference between the entrepreneurship as a method that is mostly on non-cognitive oriented, and another is called entrepreneurship as an occupation, which is mostly cognitive oriented. That means primary school, that is, it is more important that entrepreneurship should be teach as a method, and that orientation should be in a non-cognitive mode to develop and we have to teach them how to manage uncertainties. But it is totally different when the students we are going to teach at the higher education at the university level. So I hope I made clear this slide. So let's go to the second one. So as I mentioned, there is a clear-cut difference between these two, this non-cognitive and the cognitive things. So generally this non-cognitive, they focus on how to think creatively, how to come up with new ideas, how to translate ideas into action, how to start a new activity. But whereas this cognitive, that entrepreneurship as an occupation, focus on how to create a business, what is the role of entrepreneurship in society, and how to evaluate a business idea. So mostly this is a higher version of entrepreneurship as a method. Okay, so now comes to some impact or some analysis of this approach. So Danish Foundation, when started to measure this impact after 5 years of implementation of this program, they set 3 indicators to study. First thing is that they want to study that how many they have received the entrepreneurship education and how many students they developed a desire and higher ambition about becoming an entrepreneur in spare time. Also, they set another indicator that how students develop the leadership quality outside the education system. So based on these three indicators, they have measured the impact of this policy program, and also the findings are quite really up to the mark, and also very, very relevant. And also it is expected that entrepreneurship as a method has a positive impact, a positive effect on ambition for the future. So if you will teach entrepreneurship in the form of entrepreneurship as a method, and if you, through education we are trying to develop the non-cognitive oriented skill set, then it will help to build students ambition, and it will develop, it will help them to think in better way and to generally enhancing their ambition level. And also it is a positive impact at the attitude to entrepreneurship and intention of the desire for starting of their own business. If you will see the Indian context, Indian students are mostly, their ambition is something different. Their ambition is something to do something that how to generate more income, and they generally go with what mass is going, what is the majority of the students go, like so path of doctor or engineering or something like this. Also, their attitude towards the entrepreneurship is not satisfactory in Indian case, because mostly they realize that entrepreneurship is a risky and it's not return. It never gives proper return to your investment, and also it is a generally it's not their cup of tea. So this is the attitude, this is the ambition. So, but in case of Denmark, it is something different, because they started teaching at the higher school level, at the school level, at the secondary school level, and also at the higher education. And they found that actually students, those goes through the process, generally they have those gone through the process of method, like entrepreneurship method, they have developed high ambition and also attitude, and also their connectedness to the school and to classmate, the teacher, as well as their inner motivation. So they have the self-motivated candidates. And now it comes to the occupation that we will study, but it has at the schooling level, occupation has no much role, okay, but it will at the higher education level. Similarly comes to at the upper secondary education. In upper secondary education, study says that the entrepreneurship behavioral development in the school level actually has a very good and clear relationship with the entrepreneurship spirit. So that means when the training continues, when the education continues on in the area of innovation and entrepreneurship, that behavioral quality of school-going students now convert into entrepreneurship spirit, and further in entrepreneurship spirit convert into entrepreneurship commitment, or we can say it's a self-efficacy of the person, convert an innovation to startup or a business. So there is a upper secondary education has a very good impact of this education by converting behavior to spirit. Now comes to the higher education. In higher education, this reveals that students need now more, education is more kind of a cognitive mode, right? Cognitive oriented. So they will acquire certain skill set, and also that entrepreneurship education should be in as an occupation rather than as a method. And this entrepreneurship as an occupation and also in cognitive oriented skill set, actually the education should focus at creative ability, enhancement, like you can classify under exploration, evaluation, and exploitation. But generally these are the skill set required to impart and inculcate among the students. That is creative ability, creativity, planning ability, financial literacy, how to marshal the resources, how to manage the ambiguity. So these are the things, skill set generally they need to acquire during the higher education level. And also they have studied that how prior experience and also they actually help in converting the ideas to business, that they studied that the students, those have received training in school level, then upper secondary, then higher education level, their behavior is and their spirit and their commitment is better than compared to those who have not received. And also they have studied that there is a correlation between the educated students who have this experience and the prior experience in their competency level is better and high in comparison to those who have not received the experience. But even though that student has no experience without prior experience, but if they have received any kind of a teaching like taught planning and they learned about certain financial plannings during the school and during the college time, that actually helped in building their skill set. So when the skill set continue, then competency comes in. So this is also very good distinguishing factor. They understood that why in higher education itself few are good at startup and few are not good at entrepreneurship. So now comes to the key findings and the learnings. They have designed their education in such way that primary school, which focusing on basic level of entrepreneurship as a method and non-cognitive oriented skill set, actually that helped in developing the ambition and further their behavior. And that's actually leads to the further training and further education at the upper secondary level, also giving the opportunities to do some certain activities in their out of school activities and engaging in innovation and startup activities during the schooling, during the higher education time. And further, this leads to there is a strong positive correlation, or there is strong intention, entrepreneurial intention to start a business. And when they reach to the higher education and the PhD level, generally they started their own business, and ultimately those the high number of startups means there is a high income and also high employment opportunity or employment in the economy. So these are the key findings and the learnings, and this is actually here that positive effect of income. Entrepreneurship education has the positive effect on the income. Also, the learning is that in primary school, entrepreneurship is taught as both method and occupation, with both working at different stages, right? And also it says that when you teach entrepreneurship and innovation as an education during the schooling time, that also creates an ownership over the projects generally the students involved, and which gives around kind of contextual experience and better learning opportunity for the students. And this also you can say that the students acquire certain skill set in the whole process, and the attitude towards entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurship as an alternative career option that changed during the academic program itself. And what are the factors why Denmark has why Denmark has introduced, and how their policy becomes successful? The key success factor of the studies is that in schools, also in the higher educational institution, also in the university level, both teachers and the students, they have enough opportunities to engage with a large number of different initiatives, programs, and the projects, because there are 4 ministries come together and they brought their resources, they brought so many opportunities. Also the industries are the partner to this, so that's why they came up with lots of programs and initiatives, and also for support system, which actually gave lots of opportunities to the teachers, schools, institutes, students to get engaged. And also another significant emphasis that, and because the Denmark education system or the government has adequately also given extra emphasis on entrepreneurship education, and that's why actually it helped in developing entrepreneurial attitude and skill at the policy level, also at the different regional level. And another good point is that Denmark education traditionally itself is a student centric, and that's why when it is the demand of students, so almost all of the institute have reacted and responded very positively, and they changed their pedagogy, and also curriculum become the kind of a outward or kind of a accommodative as per the requirement of the country's economic growth. Similarly, because that they have a proper strategy, and they have set up a mission that then Danish Foundation to implement, that's why it becomes a smooth process throughout the system. Then what's the policy implication for developing countries from this, how to build and develop these things, taking the Indian context into account? Teaching in entrepreneurship as a method which focus on non-cognitive entrepreneurial competencies. So that means our country should focus on teaching in entrepreneurship as a method, and also developing the non-cognitive entrepreneurial competencies at the school level, also at the primary school level, and also they should focus on entrepreneurship as an occupation, as a kind of a cognitive entrepreneurship competencies, which generally has a direct relationship with students' ambition for the future, and it has to be introduced at a higher level of higher educational system, the university level, at the graduate level, and also they focused on how to give enough opportunity to go through a experiential learning, action-oriented pedagogy, and measuring these impacts on regular basis. And these are the things. So you might be quite familiar with Atal ranking. Atal ranking of institution on innovation achievement. This is a measurement of our higher educational institutes in the area of innovation and achievement. You must be aware about Institutions Innovation Council. This is the one of the program, another program of a Minister of HRD Innovation Cell, which is again making this our higher educational institutes more entrepreneurial and also innovative. So you know that Smart India Hackathon, that is also one of the best initiative. And this NISP, National Innovation and Startup Policy of Ministry of HRD, this is also another way of how to make our country's higher educational institutes more entrepreneurial. So these are few initiatives I have mentioned, but we have other initiatives are in pipeline. Also, there are other major programs floated by different ministries, different central agencies like DVT, DST, BIRAC, there are NRDC, MITI. So there are so many central government agencies and the ministries. Similarly, also state government agencies and the central state government startup missions also in this race to support our country's higher education institutions. And recently this change in the policy, CSR policy, also enabled many industries to provide, to channelize the certain resources and their profits as part of CSR fund to provide, to support incubation and the pre-incubation system. So these are the certain things actually we have implications for our country. So I believe I have justified today's session to give you a sense that how entrepreneurship education plays the role in country's economic and social growth, and also how one country giving a case that how Denmark has achieved it, and also some implications for our country that how we will do it, and what are the currently ongoing initiatives in our country, especially at the Ministry of HRD and AICT and UGC, that how we are trying to achieve this objective in a larger perspective. So this is the about today's session. So over to, thank you Diet for giving this opportunity. Now over to Diet for moderating the next 10 to 15 minutes for question and answer.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful talk on entrepreneurship, innovations, and startup policies. In fact, we have been waiting for your talk, sir, and it is like a dream come true to have you here as a resource person for our workshop today. Sir, Archana madam is asking, in India, we are following a syllabus-based curriculum, but we need to focus on problem-based education or project-based education to encourage students in entrepreneurship.
Recently, there are two initiatives have been taken. One is the model curriculum of that if your institute is part of AICT, then the model curriculum we have introduced last year that says that we have reduced the coursework burden or the classroom teaching burden. So for management, it is now I think 110 something credit, and also for engineering graduates also it has been reduced, drastically reduced to I think we have reduced more than 75 credits. So that reduction of that 75 credits burden, actually it has to be, every institute should have that liberty to use that 75% reduction in the credit burden, classroom burden, and they have to convert it into experiential learning tracks, and they have to create certain kind of a opportunity that where the students will engage in innovation and also with community, also with the start of activities in the campus. Because that's, if you will not convert that 75% to other modalities, then what will happen, that student will just simply waste that time by moving here and there and also chit chatting kind of things. Because now there is no classroom coaching, means they will get more time to spend and it will get wasted. So that means the reduction in credit burden is actually one of the best initiative, but it will only best when our institute will utilize and convert that 75% classroom into experiential learning tracks or the action oriented or the experiential learning programs. This is the one thing. The second initiative we have taken that now also even UGC also have implemented that in all higher education institute, that at the graduate level, every student has to go for at least 2 internship programs, and that is around 45 hours duration. And that's why they said that they have broadened the definition of the internship. They said that internship is not always within the industry or with a corporate, but internship also can be taken as in startup. Internship also can be taken in NGO. Also, internship can be taken with the community. Also, internship can be taken as a individual innovation projects. Also, can be done at internship. Also, can be done with the incubation units. So, the definition of internship has been broadened, and now it's giving opportunity for all engineering, management, arts and science, and all type of students, that they should not limit to only to the corporates to pursue or to do their internship. Now it is open. If they want to do, they can do any type of things, innovative and startup things in different sectors, and that can be also considered as an internship. Now comes to the major program initiative that we have started last year, but this year it was quite phenomenal. We have introduced a program called MBA or PGDM. It's a 2 years program in innovation, entrepreneurship and venture development. So now currently common entrance test for this admission into this program is going on, and AICTE has given approval to 15 higher educational institutes in India to offer this 2 years academic program. And generally the institutes or higher academic institutes having a well-established incubation unit with fully competent management and technical team, having experience in the area of startup and innovation, they can apply during the time of annual approval process of AICTE, and through a selection process. When we give approval, they can start with 30 seats. So already approval process is over, and 15 institutes have received, and have received with 30 intake per year. And the student will enter this course at idea level, and in the first year they will access to the co-working space. Also they will access to the pre-incubation space. Also they will get this all kind of training and skill set related to innovation, entrepreneurship and IP, intellectual property. And in the second year in the incubation unit, they will start registering their company and also starting their own business, and they have to run it for 1 year, and after that they will get MBA degree also. So this is the innovative program we have started last year, but this year actually this to facilitate the admission process, we are doing the AICTE started a national level entrance examination that is called Common Entrance Test for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and it is open, so you can if any student is interested to take, then you have to search Common Entrance Test in your Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Also the link is there in MHRD Innovation Cell and AICTE, so you can go through the guidelines and you can disseminate among the students. They can participate. So this is one of the best opportunity we have initiated to create the job creators rather than the job provider. Sorry, yes, it's the aim to create the job creators and not the job seekers.
Bharat Kumar sir, can you raise your question now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, thank you, ma'am. After starting a startup, it is so balanced work to maintain in a plain graph. Even if it is difficult, we can manage. And is there any methods that we can improve to promote our company? I mean, like just to not only to improve, but make others know that we exist. Is there any method, sir?
No, I'm not getting. You are asking from an academic point of view, or you are asking from an entrepreneurship point of view. Accordingly, I will answer.
I'm a student, sir.
Okay, you are a student. So if you want to pursue entrepreneurship, like during the academic, so I believe definitely you have identified a right problem. which is actually problem of plenty, like problem of mass. It's not a problem of only yours, or not the problem of your family members, or not the problem of the only 1-2 person. That means you have to identify right problem, and which is which is the problem of so many people, and also you have to come up with a solution which is cost effective, also innovative, and also affordable. And if not affordable, okay, if it is quality is there, then it's okay, but still you have to think that it should be better than the existing solution in the market. And once you have this ready, then you have to start the business. You have to register your startup either as per the DPI 80 norm, as a private limited or LLP or registered partnership. Once you have done it, so if you have the access to the incubation unit, then it's very good. You get the incubation unit in the either in your institute or nearby incubation units, and you will get access or kind of funding support, mentoring support, and other enterprise development supports through that incubation unit. But you have to do lots of work. So you have to come up with you have to roll out market rollout strategy. Also, you have to refine your product, and similar way you have to also see that how to mobilize the resources, so that you will, especially when I'm saying the mobilize the resources, the first one is called the team, and the right team, who will bring the complementary and supplementary skill sets. And also you have to see that where the investment or the investors or the angel investor, they will come in. So if you wait for the government money, then you may or may not be able to get, because it's a grant. But if you will looking after this investors money, then also you will bring the lots of knowledge. Also that investor will bring lots of knowledge. Also your growth of that startup is high. So once you have this, then you have to actually work very meticulously planned, and also very passion with lots of innovation and motivation to make that startups to see the product, to see the market. And also you have to see that how you are going to innovate on continuous basis, also how to scale up the business in different geography, or in terms of the revenue, or in terms of the volume, sales volume. According in this, all these things you have to think. So this is the way you can make your things. And also you have to participate in various competitions, various forums. You also have to present your startup, so that others will know that who you are, what you are doing, and the other, if not the advertisement, at least through social media also you can put your footprint, so that others will know about you and your startup and what you want to achieve, so that you will get connected with so many other like-minded peoples to get the further support.
So Dr. Vandita Srivastava, she's asking, can innovation self-fund an innovative idea? If yes, how?
Yes, we fund innovative ideas, but actually not like one-to-one basis, but we have a series of support system, like those are the part of IICs. They are quite aware that we first invite institutions to set up an IIC, Institutions Innovation Council. And that Institutions Innovation Council, generally it's not another startup cell or not incubation unit. It is a council. It is having the representation of the faculties, students, and experts from different domains. Those are involved and have an interest in the area of innovation and entrepreneurship in the campus. So it is the council meet, and they plan that how that IIC will function, how that IIC will help in mobilizing the resources, how that IIC will get the resource in the different centers, units like incubation, pre-incubation units within the institute, outside the institute, and they conduct the programs throughout the year to ensure that all students and faculties will participate, and they will develop the better understanding in the area of innovation and entrepreneurship. And through this process, we set the activities, and during that process of conducting that activities through IIC portal, we invite ideas, we invite prototypes, we invite proof of concepts at different stages. And now we have all these things comes under the National Innovation Contest 2020. So it is just closed, and we have received more than 35,000 ideas, prototypes, and the POCs across the country, and more than 1,500 institutes have participated, and 35,000 student ideas, student prototypes, around more than 1.2 lakh students are the part of this National Innovation Contest 2020. And now we are going to provide them the mentorship, and we are going to provide them the further intensive mentorship rounds for the nominated prototypes, and accordingly we will refine, we will nurture them, and finally the best selected prototypes, we will conduct the next funding round evaluations, also mentorship sessions, and through that the best 200, 300, I can't say the exact figure, but something like 100, 200, 300 things we will select to provide funding support to these best student prototypes. So this is the way we generally conduct, but we provide the first 3 or 4 round of mentorship common to all student ideas, prototypes, and POC, irrespective of that they are selected or not selected, but they have to be the part of the IIC contest, and their entry should be there at the IIC level. So if they are the part of the IIC contest, then definitely they will receive the first 3 to 4 round of online mentorship. After that, we will go one very concentrated and focused mentorship to the only selected one.
Okay, Dr. Vandita Srivastava, madam, you can speak now.
Thank you very much, sir. My question is very well answered. Maybe we can get at institution level the committee.
Yes.
For this type of activity.
It is going to open very soon in the end of August. So you visit our MHRD Innovation Cell webpage, and there you will register your IIC. So apply, and accordingly you start functioning one IIC, so that you will get opportunity, that your faculty will get trained, your student will get trained, your student will get recognized. So all the things through IIC we are MHRD innovation function. We never directly go case by case basis or one-to-one basis. We have set up a model, and through that model only institute has to come to channelize the benefits to the students, faculties, and the staffs.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, Vishwal, sir.
Thank you, sir, for such a nice talk. I think so. I got everything from what I wanted to speak. You in your last part of the speech, you have told you are encouraging at least 15 colleges to start courses in entrepreneurship. That's actually like music to my ears. We in Visakhapatnam Steel Plant are also starting a Center for Excellence to promote entrepreneurship among the startups. We have planned for 3 labs, one in the IIoT, industrial IoT, then robotics, and then 1 lab for drone. And we are also requesting colleges in and around Visakhapatnam to give startups to us. Okay, to continue this vision, if we could, because entrepreneurs, I believe, is a special breed of people who are coming forward, leaving their good jobs or good careers, and trying to do something on their own. So what I believe, governments, our governments who are already doing a lot of good things for the people, have some institutes like IITs or NITs to have institutes for entrepreneurship where they can catch the entrepreneurs young. Because once they complete the +2 or graduation, and then they go to MBA, you understand their mind has gone through so many things. You don't get the best of the entrepreneurs. Maybe some people still you may get, but what happens now, once they suppose after the matriculation itself, they start joining at the +2 stage. Okay. Those breed of people, they will know we are born to be entrepreneurs. We are born to create jobs for other people, not to beg for jobs. So they start joining these institutes, and they become a breed of people who will be the motivating factor for the others to be in that field. They may be allowed to choose. Maybe you may design it in consultation with AICTE, which is also doing a very good job in this area. Such a thing may be a little better, a bit better for our students or the coming generations that are coming. And my best wishes to you and to your team and the present government, who is doing a lot of things. At least we started thinking, at least after 70 years, 60, 70 years, we started thinking in those directions. Yes, we should have a course on entrepreneurship. Yes, our people should be job givers, not job seekers. So thank you so much. And we also welcome you to our COE once it is established, maybe 30th August. We are planning a soft launch from Delhi. We will invite you, sir. And so nice to hear to you. And so nice to see that our people are doing good job for the entrepreneurs in particular. And thank you so much.
Sir Murthy, sir, you can speak now.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. My question, Mr. Dipan Kumarji, is that there is an idea, and the idea is not convertible to a product immediately, and it needs a verification through proof of concept. But the proof of concept needs funding. Now, I happen to throw this idea at several forums, including some entrepreneurship competitions as well, where the idea is accepted, but somehow there is a tendency in India to doubt and not come forthcoming to verify the idea or fund it. Like I see that in other countries, that's not so. They have seed funding and they take the risk. Basically, we are completely inclined to working with zero risk as far as both the public as well as private enterprise is concerned. So, what is the way in this? How do we go about?
In every country have the different market system, right? Because market system is decided by the who are the stakeholders, what is the culture, what is the society, how they behave, what is the population, what is the geography, what is the demography, what is the their education level, what is their risk level, risk acceptance level. So all this decides the market system, right? So it is not good to compare that what the other, because other countries, the countries you may be comparing have the enough resources. They have the not much this number of ideas generally they encounter, they receive when they float a competition. But in case of India, if you will float a competition, if you say that you are going to give money, then you will get more than 20 to 30 times or even 50 times that you are expected. So if you have only 1 crore, you will get request for more than 100 crore. So that means you have the funding constraint, but you some others, the demand side is 10 times better, more than compared to the supply side. In that case, always the equilibrium is going to disturb, right? So that equilibrium is definitely is going to disturb when demand and supply is not met. So in case of India, I'm totally agree with your points, but taking the Indian context into account, our role is that to keep on exploring and if we feel that our idea is accepted, but it is not accepted after a certain level, that means we have to build our case further stronger, and also you have to see that where actually we are lacking, where we can do some more improvements so that we will overcome. So in every failure that you are come across, you have to, that is a case of your further building that case, strengthen that case further, so that after 2 or 3 failure, the 4th time definitely you are going to get a very stronger case of innovation, and which will get first round of funding. Then after that, the series of funding you are going to get, then during that time you are not going to complain, sir, I'm not getting funding. So getting the first funding is a problem. I totally agree. And also it's good that when you come across with a failure, that means it's not a failure. It is the actually giving the opinion and the feedbacks that actually where you are lacking and how you are making it better and better. So that is the actually, in that sense, if we start working, then it will not discourage us. It will actually help us in making it further, making it better further.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful talk. Thanks to all the delegates for attending the session on this festival day, and special thanks to our chairman, Shri Dari Ratnakar Garu, for giving us the opportunity to conduct this workshop. Thank you very much, Dipan Kumar Sahu, sir, for being with us today.
Thank you all. Thank you all.